and coming to the realization that what you are is what you are. What you are is what you are, which is what I am. And it is this fundamental understanding that will be at the root, at the base level of world peace. What is it that each human can agree upon? Because it is undeniable. It is the concept Hi and welcome to today's channel. Please go ahead and like this video right now before you go any further, because us coming together as a community week after week really depends on whether or not I can sustain myself, as in put food on the table and roof over my head, and that is very closely tied to whether or not you have liked my videos, because YouTube will only show my videos to other people if the like ratio is good enough. They think, well, people seem to like this, let's share it to an even larger audience. It's time to read this book. If you already have read this book, thank you and congratulations. If you haven't read this book, then it's time that you do. It's available in paperback, audiobook, and ebook, and the title is The 3 Awakenings That Save Humanity. If you'd like to have a private channeling session with me, that's something which is also possible. You can find the link below this video, right where you find the link for that book. And if you are going for the private channeling session, then click the link, fill out the form, and that will just start a conversation. It doesn't commit you to anything. An update on my moving around. I'm finally in permanent accommodation, so I'm going to be in here for at least the next 6 months. And it's worked out to be a really good plan. I left Australia because I want to pursue my dream to share these channelings with you week after week, and I just couldn't do it in Australia because it was just too expensive compared to sort of my revenue levels at the moment from what I'm doing. So I moved to Mexico, and even there it was still a little on the expensive side. But now I've moved to Colombia and it is much cheaper here. So I'm spending about 50% on what I was spending on rent in Mexico, and I'm spending 25% of what I would be spending in Australia for the standard of accommodation that I have here. It's old, but it's quaint, it's nice, I'm comfortable, and it's close to the ocean, which I like to swim in every day. So I'm happy, and now we can move forward. Today's topic is, how do we achieve world peace? It's a really big question, and it's kind of been mocked a bit, this question, over the years. It's kind of, because it's just such a generic thing for people to wish for. But of course, it's very, very meaningful. And I even wonder if it has been mocked in the narrative, in the entertainment media and so on, because of the dark forces that just don't want this to occur. And so they mock it, debase it, minimize it, as if, why would you even want to achieve something like that, world peace? Stop being ridiculous. How do we achieve world peace? Greetings and thank you for the question. How do we achieve world peace? But of course, this is proposed from your perspective, the human perspective. And so it is, how do you achieve world peace? Yet even so, the answer to this question is so fundamental in understanding that it is a universal concept and that it applies to all beings in existence. That world peace or universal peace is achieved in the same way. We have decided to bring this question into the channeling today because there are growing concerns in the earth-human field that humanity is moving away from the likelihood of world peace. And we wish to use this channeling today to assure you that this is not the case. From an energetic perspective, humanity is absolutely moving deeper into the light in a majority sense. Of course, there are those that are polarizing to the darkness, and very characteristic of the darkness is a desire for fragmentation, a desire for conflict, a desire for differentiation. But the majority is polarizing into the light, and characteristic of the light is unity, is coordination, is agreement, is coming together, which of course is much more conducive to this idea of world peace. It appears, however, that there is a coexistence of two different states where there is this majority movement into the light, and yet there is a movement of countries and political administrations and so on into, we won't say into the dark, but into conflict. How can this be so? And if you have been watching our channelings frequently, then you already know the answer to this. It is because the cultural pillars, the instruments of influence which have the greatest impact on shaping the hearts and minds of humanity, have been usurped by a unified malevolence, which is pitting itself against the greater humanity, a cabal of darkness. And they have aligned themselves around the spiritual pole of darkness. And as they have their hands on the controls of the systems which orchestrate the greater society, and also that broadcast the narrative, the mainstream narrative of what society is doing, where society is heading, then they are able to engineer a sense of foreboding conflict, and they can move humanity in that direction, even though from a wholesale perspective it is not what humanity wants. It is not where humanity's energy lay. And so this is why you have the coexistence of these two apparent different realities. And this is tantamount to the bifurcation of realities which we spoke of last week, which is also reflective of this bifurcation of humanity, those moving deeper into the darkness and those moving deeper into the light. We can perceive your spiritual group from an energetic perspective, and energetically, the greatest movement is into a state which is becoming increasingly conducive with world peace. And this escalation in conflict and chaos is, in the most part, orchestrated and not organic at all. And this is the unified malevolence feeling cornered, sensing their own demise, realizing that they have nothing left to lose because they are on the verge, on the precipice of losing everything they have been working towards for many thousands of years. So, for them it is the Hail Mary. They are throwing it all on the line in the hope that they can stop what is coming. And we speak of course, the awakening of humanity, this growing sense of understanding of what one truly is, and that being the light, that being the substance of God. And through this recognition, the incongruency with the message of the narrative, with the representatives and their agenda of this unified malevolence, which has taken many institutional names, is not of the same substance of which you are. And therefore, your tendency is to reject it, to no longer place your trust and faith in this authority. And this is synonymous with a reduction in their power, in a withering of their capacity to further their agenda. And therefore they must be more overt to bring about a result which previously required much less effort and could be done with much greater subtlety. And so these conditions now are just creating an acceleration because of the extroversion of their instrumentation, of their implementation of what they are doing, is just waking more and more and more of the human special group, moving them into the light as a result of this realization, of this discovering what they are and the incongruency with what those that are at the helm of the unified malevolence represent. So this is a movement in the right direction. And we preface this discussion in this way because we want you to be at ease. We want you to be in a sense of peace. Understand that the momentum now is very much in your favor. And it has reached a point where it cannot be undone. It cannot be stopped. So you are now in a flow of inevitability. However, those that are still clinging desperately to the power they have amassed are not going down silently. They are not prepared to relinquish and step away. So there is still much turmoil ahead. But it will be a temporary phase which will eventually come to an end, and then humanity will be able to get on with the business of why it is here. And that is discovering what it is to an extent where it has exploited all of the potential for self-understanding in the third density. And therefore we'll transition into the fourth density to access the next increment of potential of the infinity of self. So the expansion in self-understanding can continue. So, this transition is going to require a global state of harmony. It will be most proficiently achieved if there can be a unity among all aspects of your special group. And so, that brings us to the original question. How can world peace be achieved? Let us look at world peace. What is world peace? Does this state represent? World peace, when it is a true world peace, that is not the result of equal threat, where one country says, we have enough nuclear capacity to obliterate you, and the other country says, we also have an equal capacity And therefore, let us agree to not destroy each other. This is the old paradigm. But the new paradigm is not about equal threat, but it is about equality in a much more fundamental way. Equality not in how much access each receives to abundance or opportunity or so on, but equality in understanding fundamentally what you are and coming to the realization that what you are is what you are. What you are is what you are, which is what I am. And it is this fundamental understanding that will be at the root, at the base level of world peace. So, what is it that every individual within the human special group can agree upon? Something that is unchanging. Because if it can change, if it is subject to change, then this would jeopardize the agreement. And it must be something which is known by itself. If it is an understanding which is known by another, then if this other changed, then the definition would change. So, what is it that is unchanging? What is it that is known by itself? What is it that each human can agree upon? Because it is undeniable. It is the concept I am. This is something fundamental which all of you can agree upon. All of you can agree from your perspective that I am. As in you are, from your perspective. I am. I am. I am. Each of the many billions of you on this planet can agree with this fundamental philosophy. I am. And this recognition can be the basis of coming together, of the common ground, which is not advantageous to another, but not to the other, but is equal and universal and undeniable. And from this I am, there can be a unified growth in understanding. And from this unified growth in understanding, there will be the inevitable agreement that the I am which I am and the I am which you are the same. Therefore, I am you. You are me. So, before we get too cryptic with this explanation, let us add some tangibility so it makes sense. For this concept of I am, which is universal and can be agreed upon and can bring everybody together in a sense of absolute equality, absolute mutual understanding. If everybody has this same agreement, this same understanding, and all agree it is the same thing, then the investigation is inevitably, well, what is it? What is this same thing? What is this I am? What does it represent? And of course, the answer is consciousness. It is your consciousness recognizing the existence of itself. It is my consciousness recognizing the existence of myself. It is that person's consciousness recognizing the existence of themselves. So, it is consciousness. We are all acknowledging that we are consciousness. And so this concept of consciousness, which is always existing, it does not disappear. It cannot be destroyed. It is infinite. And it is unchanging because it is known to itself. This consciousness, which all of us recognize within ourselves and make this acknowledgement through our own unique perspective, is the same consciousness. It is the same energy. It is the same being. And each of us are having the unique experience of this consciousness. But nonetheless, it is the same consciousness. This consciousness is having an experience of itself through the unique perspective which is you. Through the unique perspective which is you. Through the unique perspective which is me. Because we are individuations of this consciousness. But as this consciousness is one thing, having these unique experiences of itself through the identity which we are, suggests that ultimately our identity is illusory. Your identity is illusory. Because we are the same being. And so at the fundamental essence, it is this one being playing with the illusion such that it can have interactions with itself, such that it can have unique experiences of other aspects of itself. So it can know itself experientially. And this is the purpose of existence. Prior to the creation of the existence, the One existed as a concept only. It knew itself to completion, conceptually. However, it yearned for purpose. But in this state of oneness, where it knew itself to completion conceptually, there was no capacity for growth. Because growth is a movement from incompleteness to completeness. So, first it needed to create a state of incompleteness. So then there could be purpose, a movement from incompleteness to completeness. And there was only one way in which the one was incomplete. It was incomplete in experience of itself. It had zero experience of itself. And thereby, this was the vehicle or the matrix through which the one could have purpose. So it created the all. And within the all now, there was the illusion of individuation to infinitum. So now this one being could perceive itself through these different identities, which include you. So one aspect of this one thing could look at another aspect of this one thing and say, I am not that, and therefore have experience of itself. And further, it could make the comparative analysis. I am bigger than that. I am smaller than that. I am faster than that. And this was experience of itself. And you are one of these individuations. You exist such that the one can fulfill its divine purpose, to know itself to completion experientially. So, returning to this concept of I am being the foundation of world peace. This is the fractal, which is relevant throughout creation. Creation is full of fractals. And these fractals all originate in their very first iteration with the one. So when the one existed conceptually, it knew itself as I am. But when it had the original desire to have purpose, then this I am shifted to I am what? And from this arose the all. So that question could be answered through the vehicle of experience, through the infinitum of perspectives within the illusion of individuation, including you. This is being answered. The information is being perpetually accumulated, and the one is growing in its self-understanding experientially. So, when humanity comes to this fundamental agreement, I am, and all agree with this, that this is something we all have in common, then the very natural next step will be the fractal version of the one's original question of self. I am what? And the answer to this is I am the light. And nothing but the light. This is what I am. And this is the awakening of humanity. It is the birthing of fundamental realization, transitioning from this state of confusion about what you are, believing that you are both the light and the dark, this unique dichotomous state which is found within your solar system. I love those people, but I hate those people. This is the representation of a being that does not know what it is. And when there is the capacity to say, I hate those people, then of course, the likelihood of world peace is greatly diminished. Because there will always be somebody that can fit into the role as your enemy. Because you still have the capacity for hate. But if you move into the light and you have the realization that you are the light, and so you purge the darkness. So now you're a being which is comprised almost entirely of the light. And there is no one within the human field that you would look at and say, I hate those people. Then this is a movement into the zone of world peace. So the point that we are making is this. When this foundation is laid that I am, we can all agree, I am. And the very natural extrapolation of that question becomes, I am what? The inevitable answer will be the same for everyone that sincerely asks this question as they are shifting deeper into the light. The answer being, I am the light and nothing but the light. And very similar to the discovery of I am is consciousness acknowledging itself through the proxy, which is me, through the proxy, which is you. And so there is this commonality, this universality. It will also be recognized that the light which you claim yourself to be, which you recognize that you are, is the same light which I also recognize within myself, that she recognizes within herself, that he recognizes within himself. It is the same light. It is the light of consciousness. It is the goodness and the love of the one. And ultimately, this is where it leads. The recognition that you are the one. You are God. Because you are comprised of the substance of God. As is she, as is he, as is me. We are all comprised of the love and light of the one. Because we are the one. We are the one being, experiencing itself through the unique perspectives which we represent. And so why would I wish for anything other than peace with these other aspects of myself? I do not wish to fight you because you are me. I am you. The love I feel within myself in this revelation of understanding is the same love that is found within you. Not the same quality of love, but literally the same love. It is the same source. It is the same being experiencing itself. And so then this fundamental understanding, I am, becomes I am God. When each of you on your planet, within your special group, have the recognition that I am God, and you all say it universally, and at the same time in recognition that it is the same truth for each of you, then you will be one being. You will be a unity of individuations forming the single being, the humanity being. And then the ways in which your special group behave from the macro perspective will be perceived as a single being of many parts. Because the coherency, the cooperation, the coordination will be so comprehensive. You will be integrated not just into communities, but into each other. You will draw on the resources in your emotionality, in your psychic ability, in your intelligence, in your empathy, in all ways, not from the reservoir of the individual, but from the reservoir of the collective group. Your individuation will be held onto. There is not a dissolving into homogeny. You still will be uniquely who you are. But there will be a degree of agreement amongst all of you, which eliminates any capacity for conflict. There will be debate. There will be disagreement. There will still be intellectual challenge, because this is the nature of science. So this will continue. However, it will never escalate to the point where there is anything other than love for each other. Because you will all understand that even those who disagree with you are motivated from a place of love and light, are filled with the same substance that you are, because you are the same being. And they will think and perceive of you in exactly the same way. And so to do anything which is less than in service, that is less than loving, that is less than beautiful for any other aspect of your spiritual group, will be an act of self-harm rather than self-love. Because to treat other aspects as you would treat yourself is self-love, because you recognize you and them are the same being. So, let us finish with just a little bit about practical application of this concept. When you encounter people that are still asleep, and the way in which they behave perhaps is not nice, shall we put it that way? It is selfish, it is vicious, it is spiteful, vindictive, hateful, violent. Even so, at their very fundamental essence, they are what you are. They are the one consciousness of which you are a part. And they are an aspect of your expanded identity. They are the humanity being just as you are the humanity being. However, these individual aspects are in different degrees of wakefulness. So, rather than despise them, rather than attack them, rather than hold any emotional qualities projected at them which are outside of the scope of love and its derivatives, instead, acknowledge the I am aspect of them. Acknowledge this consciousness, which is playing with the illusion such that it may experience itself and know itself to completion experientially. And in that acknowledgement, there is the recognition that it is the same aspect which you are. So, to use a visual metaphor, shall we say, this is each of you individually. And so while there appears to be individuation, so these are the 5 points of the 5 people who are in this example. When we penetrate with our understanding of who they are, we discover they are all the same fabric. They are all the same being. And therefore, rather than be horrified and vilified and repulsed by the ugly external of those that are operating from a level of self-understanding which has not yet taken them through this process of revelation, love who you know they to be at this I am level of identity. And energetically form a bond with them at this level. And by doing this, you are acting as the tuning fork. And this will have an effect on them. The awakening of humanity is an energetic event. And so when there is someone within your field who is still asleep and still acting in a way which is self-harming from this perspective of the expanded being, then if you bond with them at this level and acknowledge and recognize that they are the same as you and give love to that perspective of them, then this is your blessing. You are blessing them. And this blessing activity is harmonization. You are harmonizing them into the group being. And this is why, when we say to be of service, the greatest way that can be done for any being in existence, including you who is watching this now, is to be as much of the light and nothing but the light as you can be. Your contribution is always greatest from the point of your energetic quality. If you exist entirely within the lightness end of the spiritual spectrum, as much as is possible for you, then you are contributing as a service to the rest of humanity and the greater all in the most profound and comprehensive way that you can. It is often believed that to be of service is to sacrifice oneself, is to be doing. But to be of service in the most profound way is to be. It is how you are being. Because ultimately, you are an energetic being. And the one is an energetic being. And this tangible physicality which you experience is just part of the illusion. So if you wish to contribute to the awakening of all other aspects of this one being which you are, then bless them, love them, recognize and acknowledge the I am within you is the same I am within them. And this is the bit by bit, fragment by fragment, coming together to build the foundation on which world peace can flourish and will inevitably be the experience of your special group. This is the process of defragmentation. At the moment of the creation of the all, when the one exploded itself into an infinity of individuations, that was the moment of maximum fragmentation. It was when the one thing had been split into the maximum number of individuations. And these were the singular particles. And then these singular particles started to come together to form larger beings. And the very first of those were the galaxies. And then within the galaxies, there was more coming together. There was more defragmentation. And so larger particles came with larger particles and larger groups and groups until there was the formation of the consciousness of the stars. And then around these stars, larger conglomerations of defragmented individuations came together to form the planets. And so on and so on and so on. This is the march back to the ultimate state of defragmentation. It is the return to the one, where every one of these individuations that were original individuations of the infinitum have coalesced fully back into the one. This is the ultimate unity. This prevents any capacity for anything other than unity, because there is only one. It is the ultimate state of peace. And as you are heading back there, we are heading back there, every aspect of the all is heading back there to the place of ultimate peace, then it is inevitable on your journey there will be increasing peace within your domain. Peace within self, peace within your family, peace within your friend group, peace within your greater community, and so on until eventually peace across your entire planet, between every nation, every individual. So, we conclude by saying we hope that you can understand and appreciate and take solace in the realization that world peace is an inevitability for every corner of the universe. And you are much closer than you think. So be the light and nothing but the light now. Love all other aspects of the expanded being which you are, regardless of how they present in their physical identity. And all of you together will bring about this golden future which lay ahead for humanity. It is exciting times. And it is with great pleasure that we are here to observe and share this with you. Thank you, and we love you.